Welcome to St. Joseph Radio Presents. Guess who's on today? It is Father Augustine Wetta. We decided we were going to talk about
own music for the show.
Advent
intro.
and the Eucharist, and we didn't.
No, because we mainly gossiped.
Yeah, Catholic gossip.
Lots of Catholic gossip.
Yeah.
Local St. Louis. Well, no. International Catholic gossip.
Yeah.
We even gossiped about
And
C.S.
Father
Lewis.
ratted out himself.
Yeah.
Listen.
Don't tell anyone, though, it's gossip.
Yeah, not supposed to do that. Watch.
Welcome to the St. Joseph Radio Presents live program, broadcasting to you from the Rome of the West, St. Louis, Missouri. The program that for over 30 years has brought you eloquent speakers from across the globe to help explain, clarify, and evangelize the Catholic faith. Our program covers a variety of topics relating to current issues and occurrences in our daily lives. Now, with the aid of technology, we are able to bring the gospel message to the four corners of the world, where Christ himself did say, "Those who have ears ought to hear." It is our hope at St. Joseph Radio that through these programs we can help evangelize the world and change one soul at a time. Now, here is your host to introduce today's guest and topic.
Well, welcome.
Peter Karutz.
Well, I guess that's new intro music. Guess who's the guest today? Father Augustine. Welcome, Father Augustine.
Get the monk out of the monastery and you can't shut him up.
Oh, there you go. So here, let me tell you what we're doing here. This is St. Joseph Radio Presents, coming to you live from St. Louis, Missouri. Boy, yours is much better than mine. I'm your host. I'm your host, Peter Karutz, and this
Where
is
did I get that music
Father
anyway?
Augustine. You know what? When I started here, we had different music. So this is new music, and where did they get it? I don't have
Is
this.
it better music now than it was then?
It is, and it was a little shocking when the music came on the first time. I thought, wait a minute, we got the wrong thing here. We're doing the wrong show, doing wrong program.
Eloquent speakers from across the globe.
Yeah. What part of the globe are you from, Father?
I'm from Texas.
That Texas part of the globe.
Yeah, once you're from Texas, you're never from anywhere else.
That's right. It's a whole new. What I learned about Texas from a very,
is that one out of every 3 drivers is armed?
Oh, I think it's more than that.
That's why everyone's so polite.
It's got to be more than that. But no, what I learned about Texas is a few things. Number one, Texas really does consider itself its own country. When I was
there are also no laws against killing pigs. You can kill them any way you want.
See, all these laws.
As long as they're wild hogs.
All these laws.
You can blow them up with dynamite,
Yeah.
plastic explosives, A-14s, whatever you need to do.
When they put the interstate
A-15
system in, there was a whole bunch of negotiation that went on because before then it wasn't illegal to drink and drive. You just couldn't be drunk and drive. And then also when they got the interstate money.
The Texans were like, hell no, you can take my beer from my cold dead hands.
That's right. Yeah, my guns and my beer. And the other thing is as I understood prior to that, they could still secede because they were their own country.
I believe they still can, actually.
Well, they say they still can, but I'm not sure they can.
Hey, I just had an idea. I've been listening to this podcast where these two people just gossip about stuff. So I want to start with Catholic gossip.
Catholic
that
gossip.
I've heard this week.
Okay, Catholic gossip. Go.
Well, okay. So I met this guy, and we're going to call him
Sam.
Brendan Friends.
Brendan Friends.
If he's out there, he'll know who I'm talking about.
Right, Brendan Friends.
Anyway, and he's a traditional Latin mass goer, right?
Yep. The
which is not,
form.
In my world, that's not an extraordinary thing, although it is the extraordinary rite, because I say the extraordinary rite periodically.
Yeah, cool.
I love it. It is cool. But here's the thing. He's a huge fan of Pope Francis. Which is like, I know. I thought I couldn't figure out. So
has he read the Motu Proprio recently?
Right? No. Well, I can't figure it out. But he's like, no, it's all. See, the thing is, he used to be in the Society of St. Pius X, which is not.
Yeah.
Its relationship with the larger church is very
dubious.
Well, it's
irregular.
It's irregular, but they're not exactly. They're not. They're not
excommunicated anymore.
They're excommunicated, but they also you're not supposed to go to mass there unless you have no other options, things like that. I don't actually know all the rules, but they're not totally kosher. Let's just put it that way,
Right.
okay? So that I don't get into trouble canonically here.
They're getting better, though.
Oh, they're great. I love
Yeah.
them. We had
Yeah.
a bunch of their priests, Society of St. Pius X priests out at the monastery
Oh,
not
is that
too
right?
long ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and the abbot said it wasn't a good idea to let them say Mass in our church.
Yeah.
But he let them say, I have an old Mass altar in my office.
Why am I
practice
not
at.
surprised about
Yeah.
that?
And so they said Mass there, and we had some great talks. At one point, anyway, but that's where, okay. So this guy, my friend Brendan, he's like all about Pope Francis. He's like, have you read Laudato Si? Like, have you read
Yes, I have.
And the environment one? He's like, it's great. He's like, it's not really about the environment, you see. It's actually like he's trying to catch the lefties off guard and then hit them with a pro-life message right at the end. He's really like all psyched. So I'm like, well, what about the whole business with Cardinal Burke, right? Because I love Burke. I dedicated my first book to him. He was our bishop. I think he's great. But the rumor, the gossip is, right, that Francis fired him and kicked him out of his apartment and took away his stipend or something. And I was like, so how do you reconcile that? Because he's a big fan of Burke too, because all Latin masters are big fans of Burke.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if you're a good Catholic, you probably ought to be a fan of Burke. But his thing is, if you're a good Catholic, you should be a fan of Burke and a fan of the Pope. So I was like, how do you square those two? And he's like, look, here's the deal. If you come out publicly and you disrespect your dad, he doesn't have to pay for your apartment. I know. But it's still kind of a cool way of thinking about it. Like he didn't disrespect him. And as far as I can tell, he's always been very obedient. And he says that's what separates Burke from Lefebvre, is that Lefebvre finally said, no, I won't obey.
That's right.
But Burke
is
said,
obedient.
look, kick me out of the whatever, do whatever you got to do to me, but I'm not going to shut up. I actually looked
into that a little bit. The odd thing about the whole thing, I think, there's a few things that are odd about the Burke thing. Number one is that we and he found out through the secular media that he
he found out
through
the secular media,
which is a little off, but
that's not cool.
It's nuancal, right? So he was
that's a good word.
I get one once in a while.
Nuancetaceous.
He was the chaplain for the Society of the Holy Sepulchre, I think.
Yeah, the Knights of Malta.
Knights of Malta. Yeah. Oh, is it?
I think the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre were suppressed or something for, killing people or something. I could be wrong.
All right, let me come back to that. Well, anyway, he's a chaplain of some sort. But he submits his resignation because he's 75 early, as they always do. But the Pope removed him shortly before he turned 75. Unusual. And he installed an 80-year-old Jesuit in his place, which is a little odd. But in terms of the apartment, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But as I understand, you don't get an apartment in Rome automatically because you're a cardinal. You get one if you have a job. Well, he didn't have a job anymore. So it might be the secular media kind of spinning it a little bit differently.
Oh, by the way, he loses his special apartment.
And this, you said stipend. The media's been saying pension.
Pension, not stipend.
But I think it is. I think you're right.
It's bet not it is a pension. It's just his salary, which obviously you don't earn if you just got fired.
Well, right. I thought what I really think it is, and I have to look into it, is if he lost his job, he probably lost his stipend.
Right. If it's a stipend and not a pension.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got to look into it.
I got to say, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder just like the next guy, okay? Like, I have every time he opens his mouth, I run around to all my friends saying, no, he didn't say that.
I know, I do the same thing.
Right? But on the other hand, I live in a country full of people who think basically German and Irish thoughts. Like, we want things laid out, absolutely,
Well, we had a good German Pope who did that very well.
And then Francis, who is South American, tends to kind of speak off the cuff. We have trouble with that, But, yeah, well, actually, analogously, we have these friends in Chile who run a high school just like ours. And they have this special program where the older kids have. I told you this before?
No. I got a story about that. Yeah.
Well, they have a system where the older kids teach the younger kids how to read scripture called tutoria, which involves Lectio Divina. And so we invited a bunch of them to come down and teach it to our kids. So the kids are like, well, okay, how do you do it? And they're like, well, it's brotherhood. And they're like, no, we mean like, what is tutoria? They're like, oh, it's love. Like, no. We want to know like the steps that you take.
What's
how
the
to
process?
Do it. Like, the process. Well, the process is brotherhood.
Yeah.
They're like, you just they just think in this sort of
differently.
I don't know. What do you call it? Mystical sort of. I don't know. Maybe we're trying
I would say it's
the
anti-German. I come from a Hispanic.
And he's certainly not a big fan of the U.S., which I don't blame him. If I were from South America, I probably wouldn't like the U.S. very much either.
That's a whole but a bit of understanding, because there is a different sort of a understanding in South America with regard to even left and right, because he is both. He's a leftist and a rightist, and it's really embedded into his culture. So, and he does think differently. And no disrespect to this Pope, and I certainly am not a theologian.
Yeah, no.
But he's not a theologian of the caliber of a
Burke,
of a Burke or a Benedict or John Paul. And he speaks very casually.
Yeah, and he's one of the first whose every single word is recorded.
That's right. I'm with you. Sometimes I'm not a great fan of him in some respects. But I am often defending him because his words are so twisted.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's what my sister has this opinion. She says they misunderstood Pope Benedict and they hated him for it. They misunderstand Francis and they love him for it. As far as she's concerned, net gain.
But it's partly intentional. I remember
he does seem to kind of pick on the traditionalists, which I makes me sad sometimes. But then again, like a friend of mine who is a traditionalist emailed me as soon as the Motu Proprio came out, and he was like, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" I was like, "Look, I'm going to go. I'm going to say the Novus Ordo in Latin." I'm going to say it ad orientem with prayers at the foot of the altar and the Gospel of John afterwards, and you won't be able to tell the difference, right?
Yeah, but that's what I did. I think the point on the Motu Proprio is, and look, let's give our listeners some homework. Go read Benedict's.
Go actually read it.
Yeah, read Benedict's Motu Proprio on the traditional Mass, and then put it side by side and read Pope Francis's Motu Proprio.
I haven't read any of them, by the way.
I read them.
I'm speaking from a place of total ignorance.
I read them both, and I read them very, very carefully, almost section by section, line by line, back and forth. Yeah. The reason why this is so controversial, I guess, is because it is so out of character for both of them. Everybody considers Benedict a very straight line.
Oh yeah, you're a heretic.
But he gave such license, literally license.
Yeah, and now Francis, who you think, but see, he doesn't grant as much license as we always think he's gonna.
He did.
He didn't like the bishops, the German bishops. He was pretty harsh with. And he's been very clear about the whole male-female thing.
Well, he had to be. Well, we're talking about another thing. The German bishops needed correction. Yeah. And
but we all thought he was going to cave into them, or at least in clerical circles.
Well, I'll tell you one quote.
My clerical circles, which are
one quote I like of Francis is this. Because he gets hit with a lot of stuff. Because people are trying to mess with his words.
Oh, yeah. He
said...
I suspect that's why Benedict retired.
That's an all other conversation. But wait, here, let me see what Francis said is, I am a loyal son of the church.
He did say that. You're right.
And I think he believes it. I think he's there. And you know what? It's often, I think, a teaching moment. Yeah. You and I are entitled to have opinions about a lot of different stuff.
And so is the Pope, by the way.
And so is the Pope.
Yeah, okay.
So is the Pope. Yeah. And we don't have to agree with his
That's right. We don't even have to like the guy.
Yeah.
But we do have to love him and pray for him and obey in the end.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you my Chile story, and then we're behind.
No. I got another rumor. I got another gossip.
So this is do gossip too. But I was in Chile for a year and a half, and I go to a meeting, and my Spanish is okay. It isn't great.
Okay.
And there's a room full of about 15 people, and there's this.
I learned all my Spanish from reggaeton. and from watching Telemundo. I go, my dad and I used to watch Telemundo soap operas and try to explain the plots to each other.
You probably could.
But I'd say, porque fonde de baloto, porrete, caliente, lo Telemundo.
Just a little secret, none of that is Spanish.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
No, but it sounds great, doesn't it?
Anyway, I'm in this meeting, and it's about brick manufacturing, and this one guy...
Boy, that sounds like a real winner.
This broker from, I think it was Aon, comes to me and he says, "You're from St. Louis." I said, "Yes." And his English was perfect, no accent, anything. He says, "I'll translate." I said, I can handle the Spanish. He said, No, I'll translate. I said, "Where did you learn English?" He says, "I went to high school at the Priory."
No, who was it then?
This is 15 years ago. I can't remember. But when he was in high school, he went...
Well, what country was this?
Chile. Yeah, it was in Santiago.
Oh, boy. 50. I'm sure I knew him.
You probably did. I'll find out who he is. But first off, I have to make the service station announcement.
Oh, okay.
This is St. Joseph Radio Presents, coming to you live from St. Louis, Missouri, the Rome of the West. I'm your host, Peter Karutz. This is Father Augustine. And if you haven't noticed, we're talking about Advent, but we're not yet. So first off, Father,
but wait, more gossip.
Okay, can you do a prayer thing before? Because we're supposed to do that, and I get fired at the end of the hour if we don't.
All right, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. I'll say the prayer that one of my students said last year that I love so much that I memorized it and have said it ever since. Lord, make us holy and smart, but mostly make us holy, because who cares if you're smart if you're a jerk? Amen.
Amen, Father, Son,
St.
Holy
Drogo, patron of ugly people, pray for us.
All right, who is...
Drogo? Drogo of Seaborg, you don't know him? He's probably the patron saint of radio announcers, because you know how they say you got to face it for radio.
I do know him. You have a holy card of him.
Yeah.
He looks like a troll.
Yeah, well, you know, who knows what he really looks like.
But you made him look like a troll.
Well, I mean, he was ugly enough that the priest wouldn't let him into the church because he scared the kids. So he built a little shack on the side of the church and dug a hole in the wall and would watch the mass through the hole in the wall.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
You got any good gossip?
He's also the patron saint of kidney stones, intestinal blockages, mental illness, orphans, and people who feel guilty about killing their parents because he killed his mom by mistake.
Wow.
When he was born.
Oh, well, yeah.
He felt guilty about it. And, okay, so here's the second piece of gossip. There's a patron
saint of everything.
Okay, so I have this friend.
Is this Brendan again?
A father... We'll just call him Father, okay?
Okay.
He's a member of a certain religious order.
Some of them, yeah.
And so he's got this illness, right, for which he has to take all these medications, right? Well, he belongs to this order from England that celebrates the 4th of July and Thanksgiving, like, are the high feasts, because when the English guys came over, they said, well, this is really important that we celebrate these American holidays. Anyway, so no American has been allowed to give the Thanksgiving sermon, but now the old English guys are too old to give it, so he steps up there, right? And in preparation, he doubles his meds that he can be extra alert, right? But unfortunately, he mistakes his sleeping medication, for which he is only to take 1/4 of a tablet.
Oh no!
For his Parkinson's medication, which is he's supposed to take 1 tablet, but he doubles up, right?
Oh no!
So he actually takes 8 times the amount of sleeping medication that he should. Okay, I'm talking about myself. Anyway, he takes 8, and I don't remember anything about that mass. Like, I know I preached it.
Did you preach it?
I preached it. I said the mass, all business. I don't remember a thing. People are like, man, your Parkinson's, like, you're really slurring your words. They're like, yeah, I gotta go to bed. Like, I could have literally killed myself. I took 8 times. I'm supposed to take 1/4 of a tablet of clonazepam because apparently you need this stuff to paralyze you while you sleep because
or else you shake
dopamine stuff. Yeah. Anyway, but so that's the second gossip. Catholic gossip. We should have a whole Catholic
I don't know if
show.
does it count as gossip if you're telling on yourself?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Doesn't most gossip involve oneself.
Usually, the malicious kind involves somebody else that you're trying to...
usually it's like they did something horrible to me, right?
I don't know.
Right.
The really good gossipers, they're just doing it as a sport. It's just sport.
All
right, so here, help me out, because you're the brainiac in the room.
Yes.
What is the difference between culminating somebody and libeling them or slandering them?
Libeling? You mean calumny?
Calumny.
Okay, all right, hold on. Now, there's three. There's calumny, slander, and libel.
Right. So how about, what is calumny?
I have no idea. I don't even know the difference between slander and libel.
So I thought that the calumny was actually saying something that was not good, but it's true.
No, I think that's libel.
Libel is... No, I think if you say liable, that's something that is actually not true.
Oh, yeah. Libel is not
right,
true, but slander can be true, right? I know calumny, it says here, it says making of false and defamatory statements about someone in order to damage their reputation. So let's try slander now.
Slander, I think, has to be untrue. But there's got to be a difference.
Slander, the action or crime of making a false spoken statement damaging a person.
Yeah, so they're both.
Slander and calumny are the same thing, essentially. I suspect calumny is more moral, slander is more legal. Yeah. Well, let's look up libel now.
But now as we get together with all our families during these holidays, and we're going to go to Advent.
Yeah, don't slander at the dinner table.
Why is gossip wrong if it's true?
Why is it wrong?
If it's true.
All I know, I have a little story that goes with that, which is that I was walking through our junior high. My monastery runs a high school. And I was walking through the junior high, and I heard a kid yell at another kid, "Hey, man, if you're going to say something bad about me behind my back, at least make sure it isn't true."
It is not true?
Yeah, and I was like, what? And I went back, I was like, "Hey, buddy, come here." He's like, "What? Am I in trouble?" I'm like, no, I just want to figure out what you just said. He goes, "Well, he's going around telling people bad things about me that are true." He's like, "I can't deny that. I could at least deny the false stuff."
I get it. I get it.
So in a way, like, it's actually worse, I think, to say something insulting that's true about it.
True. See, that's what I thought.
If I say about you, you've got horrible complexion, it's not going to hurt your feelings, because even if I said behind your back, because you don't have a horrible complexion. But if I said you're
losing your hair,
then what are you going to do? You'll be like,
losing my hair. Yeah.
Like, that's really hurtful, it seems to me. So I don't know. I just know that monks are great gossipers. It's
really?
Yeah, St. Benedict.
Isn't there a rule against that?
Yeah, grumbling, murmuratio, he calls it. But but my favorite is like, we really need to pray for Peter. He's such a jerk. You go, what? Like the pious grumbling. But what you're talking about is the brave grumbling. Is the guy who says, "All right, I'm going to tell you something, but this isn't anything I wouldn't say to his face, man."
Right.
You go, well, don't say it to his face. Don't say it behind his back. Just don't say it, right?
So why is getting back to we'll never get to Advent. Why is gossip wrong? And I think
why is it wrong?
I think it's kind of what your student said. Part of it is it's unkind, but if it is true, then and it isn't always, but it's hard. It's maybe doubly hurtul. It's none of anybody's business. And it's hurtful on a gratuitous level.
Well, you're bearing. If it's untrue, you're bearing falsehood,
right?
Obviously,
but if it is true,
if it is true,
it's an unkindness.
Yeah, it's kind of. I guess it's a form of murder in a way. You're killing their reputation, maybe, sort of, or even if you're not telling the truth, even if you're telling the truth. You're certainly telling it in a way that is unflattering to their reputation, right?
Well, and I think it's against love, right? So love is to will the good of somebody, and if you're actually willing if you're by reputation assassination, you're willing the bad of them. I guess that would be the opposite of love, which is what we're called to do.
Yeah. Well, I was just looking up on Catholic Answers, which is what I do for everything,
like
really.
Very good.
But they're saying that calumny is saying something about another person that is untrue. So it harms, but it's sinful because it harms the reputation of others, gives occasion for false judgments. So actually, if you say something that's true, that's insulting, then you give the other person an opportunity to judge that person without them being able to respond, right? So it sets someone else up for making a false accusation or judgment, right?
Oh, okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I'm glad you said this because I have always been under the false assumption that calumny was when you're saying something that is unflattering, if you will, but it's true, which I always thought was a bit more hurtful than something that's, well, I think they're both false.
And it still hurts the reputation, even if it's good, even if it's true, rather.
Well, we're going to take a break in a few minutes, but
already,
but are we going to talk about Advent afterwards, or unless you have other Catholic?
I was also thinking of I might be able to think of something before the break, but no, I was thinking about. Well, I think we talked about either the Eucharist and the Eucharistic revival, or Advent, or both. I mean,
I think we got to do both.
In a way, yeah. In a way, okay, all right. I know how to do that.
Good. We got to do both. You know, the whole country is doing a Eucharistic revival, and frankly, it's
not very big in St. Louis.
It is not. You know, St. Joseph. I'm going to say that and talk about it after the break. But St. Joseph Radio has a speaker series.
Good.
So if
I'm on it.
Yes, you are. And we.
So don't miss it.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, there's Eucharistic processions. Thank you.
We made a Eucharistic pilgrimage we made a pilgrimage St. Louis Abbey did last Friday from St. Louis Abbey to downtown St. Louis, the Shrine of St. Joseph, a pilgrimage in penance, a penitential pilgrimage for sins against the Eucharist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because basically the monks all feel pretty guilty about shutting the doors of the church and keeping all the laity out.
We all do. We all do. You know.
But we had the Eucharist that year, right, during COVID.
Sure.
You didn't. Well, maybe you did. I don't know whether you did or not.
It was the longest time I'd ever not gone to Mass.
But who failed you there? The priests. Like, we should have been braver. Well,
there's a little bit of a difference here. You know, if someone had elected me and I had a pointy hat, I wouldn't have closed the churches. But you have to do what you're told.
A friend of mine named John Tardif, and I will say his name, he said to me something that really cut me to the heart. He said, look, I understand you had to close the doors of the church, but you could have at least acted like you were sorry to do it.
Oh, wow. Well, that's another thing. We'll talk about the Eucharist. We're going to talk about Advent because it's sort of a new year. Coming up.
It is.
So we're going to do that.
Happy New Year tomorrow.
Yeah. And as per usual, we didn't quite get on subject right at the first moment.
We haven't even started yet. Well,
so tell a friend to come and join us. You've missed the good part, but not the substance.
Okay.
Hi, this is Matt Loggeman with St. Joseph Radio with a great gift idea. A St. Benedict Bracelet, a trendy accessory for men, women, and children that not only looks good on everyone's wrist, but is actually armor for the spiritual battlefield. This unique bracelet is handmade in Europe and contains 10 medals within the braided cord in the adult size and 7 medals in the children's size. On the front of each beautiful medal is St. Benedict holding a cross in his right hand, the object of his devotion. On the back of each medal is a cross. Surrounding the back of the medal and cross are the letters VRSN MV SMQ LIVB, in Latin reference which translates, "Begone, Satan. Never tempt me with your vanities. What you offer me is evil. Drink the poison yourself." And finally, located at the top is the word Pax, which means peace. All bracelets come packaged with an informational card and a St. Benedict blessing which your local priest can administer. This gift is for everyone you love and care about, including yourself. Available from St. Joseph Radio. Check the website at www.saintjosephradio.net.
St. Joseph Catholic Radio is proud to announce the launch of SJEN-TV, the St. Joseph Evangelization Network. SJEN-TV is a premier online Catholic broadcasting network providing quality Catholic programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have programming such as live studio interviews, St. Joe's Java speaker presentations, current Catholic issues, and the Pro-Life series. We're featuring the many talented speakers out of Orange County, California, and this Archdiocese of St. Louis, Missouri. Missouri, including Professor John Gresham, Father James Mason, Karen Nokemper, Rick Hollerick, Bill Federer, and many more. To review the program list, go to SJEN.TV or on Roku, SJEN TV. All this programming is free, and we are welcoming sponsorship of new programs. Find out more at SJEN.TV.
Welcome back. This is
This is
the best program of the month. This is St. Joseph Radio Presents, coming to you live.
Best music.
Can you tell? Live from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm your host, Peter Karutz, and the beatboxer here is Father Augustine Wetta. So
I never was very good at that.
I got to do announcements, Father, before we do that. All right, so here's an announcement. I didn't bring my glasses, so I'll struggle through it. Eucharistic Revival. There's a lot of that going on around the country, but not too much here in the Archdiocese of St. Louis. But on Saturday, January 13th at 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 in the upper cafeteria at, where is it at, Father?
You're
going to be there.
Oh, the Advent Reflection?
Get this, nationally acclaimed speakers, Tim Francis and Father Augustine Wetta. That's you.
Yeah, where is it going to be? Because I don't actually know.
I'm going to tell you. I think it's at St. Gerard Margella. But is it?
I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll share a powerful message centered on the real presence, the Eucharistic miracles, and the importance of Mass, adoration, benediction. There's a light breakfast, sign me up, and a box lunch. Then on the 21st of January, the 28th, and the 4th, same place, same time, there's going to be a 3-part video series. And then it goes on. I'll just concentrate on the next one, which is January 13th.
St. Stephen Protomart? No, that's where the ad is.
January 13th. We'll tell you exactly where it is. But
you got to buy a table or so. You guys spend money to do it, though.
Well, call us.
So don't just call.
We'll tell you what to do.
I'll treat you. Just call me personally. You can just sneak in.
636-447-6000.
I'll help you carry my bags.
447-6000. Hey, but realistically and seriously, if your parish would like to do a Eucharistic Revival speaker series, let us know. Call us here.
I'll do it. I'll speak.
You
about
are doing it.
Oh, right. Well, I will. I'll do it again.
Okay, Father, we'll do it again.
I'll do it for anybody. You have a couple of friends over for dinner, and I'll do it in your house.
Let's do it.
I'm serious.
So we are going to talk about Advent because the church year starts anew tomorrow, I think, with Advent. But you were talking about C.S. Lewis.
Oh yeah, and you said you knew why he didn't become Catholic.
Well, you had another bent on that. But let me just say this. So C.S. Lewis is renowned, really, amongst Catholics, amongst Christians.
Because you're talking about gossip.
But he is, we're going to talk about gossip, but he never became Catholic.
Right.
But now C.S. Lewis had a lot of Catholic friends. When his wife, who, long story, make it short, he wound up marrying this woman. He wasn't in love with her, but he wound up falling in love with her.
Yeah.
And she wound up getting a terrible cancer, and she's at her last moment. She's about to die. And C.S. Lewis calls one of his former students, who is a priest who is known as a healer, and she was healed. Now, you tell me that there's not reason he should have become Catholic. But what happens if he had become Catholic? Maybe he did. Protestants wouldn't listen to him.
Well, yeah, true. But also or at least according to his secretary, who was a close personal friend of mine, good old Walter Hooper, he and I used to have tea at the old parsonage at Oxford and have quail eggs together on Sunday afternoons. Yeah, he's a great man. I met him at a sherry at St. Bennett's Hall, and we were standing there. We didn't really have anything to say, so he said, "You see that woman over there?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Isn't she beautiful?" And I said, "I don't know. She looks kind of plain to me." He goes, "She's my goddaughter."
Oops.
At that point, I was like, "Mr. Hooper, we're going to have to be great friends." Because
it could have gone south.
If this didn't destroy any hope we had, this. But he was really great. When I was ordained a priest, he and Priscilla Tolkien asked if they could buy something for me for my ordination.
Priscilla Tolkien?
Yeah, they both live in Oxford still.
Oh, wow.
And they said, "Can we get you something?" I said, "Yes, but you can't buy me anything. I want something that belonged to your dad, Mrs. Tolkien, and Miss Tolkien, she wasn't married. And I want something that belonged to your boss. I don't want something cruddy like
his
toenail
boss.
Clippers or something."
His
so
boss.
I have C.S. Lewis's match holder for his pipe.
Really?
And I have J.R.R. Tolkien's scarf.
Holy
Isn't that cool?
smokes. It
if
really
you guys
is.
come out to St. Louis Abbey and visit, I will show them to you. They're in my little relic collection. Yeah, isn't that cool?
That is wild.
That's my claim to fame. And I also have a piece of the tomb, the inner tomb of St. Cuthbert that was stolen by Benedict Ward, who's a famous translator of the Desert Fathers. But that's probably less exciting than the other two.
But I don't know.
But I was talking about gossip. And about, because you were saying, are we gossiping about C.S. Lewis if we're talking about,
right.
if we're kind of, and yes, in a way, but I believe it's Elizabeth Anscombe, who is also a scholar at Oxford, who said that if you're a public figure, if you put your personality up to be evaluated by other people, then all bets are off. Like, and so she was pretty brutal with C.S. Lewis. Like she made fun of him in public for his opinions about miracles.
Oh wow!
And or something like that. And he was really bitter about it. He made her the villain in his next book. In the book That Hideous Strength, there's a villain who's a woman who's a police officer who smokes a big cigar, and she's always burning people with a cigar. And Elizabeth Anscombe was famous because, firstly because she was a brilliant philosopher, but also because she smoked a cigar. Because she had 8 kids, I believe, and her youngest boy had come down with some sort of pox or something, and she made one of these old school vows to God that she would quit smoking cigarettes if he would cure her son.
And she did.
He did. Her son was cured, and then she quit smoking cigarettes. But then a couple of weeks later, she thought, well, wait a second, I didn't say I wouldn't quit smoking cigars. So she would walk around campus smoking this big cheroot.
Yeah, it's like for Lent, you give up drinking red wine, you just go to white wine, huh?
Yeah, right. Well, old school. That's how they used to do it back in the day.
So are we? Is it the New Year, so to speak?
Not yet. Not till tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the liturgical
tonight
New
at
Year.
Midnight. No, actually not at midnight. Tonight at dusk. Advent begins.
Which is the New Year for the church.
Vigil, yeah. So that's why you can have a Sunday Mass as early as like 4:30, because in theory,
somewhere.
Yeah, 4:30 is when the sun starts to go down some places.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So why do we do Advent?
Okay. Or are we gonna? Okay, we're gonna.
Oh no! Are you done with gossip?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm done with gossip.
So are we going to do Eucharist first?
Well, I was thinking about combining them because I was just or we were just talking about it, and I was just thinking that I have this favorite store. Well, I collect introductory paragraphs the way other people collect coins.
Really?
Yeah, I have a whole list. I even keep some of them on my phone.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yeah, which one?
The Man in the Iron Mask.
Ooh.
I would say the first page. But
I think Victor Hugo?
No, that's Alexander Dumas.
Dumas.
It is maybe the best prose ever written. I would say the first few paragraphs, but
wow,
it is and the way the scene opens, this apparent bishop comes in. He calls him Monsignor, right? This is it's in French, but the Man in the Iron Mask is in the Bastille. And he's a young man, and he's in this iron mask, and he's in this one room, and he only has a little slit to look out to see a little bit of sun. And once a week, he gets an hour to walk in the garden. But he's so joyful. He's just so joyful about it. It's absolutely incredible.
Really?
I think I've taken you off your game here.
Yeah, you kind of have, because I'm thinking about that. I want to read it now so
it's
bad
a
that
great
I'm
book.
looking it up as you speak.
Everybody knows the story, but if you read the
I don't
original,
know the story.
He's
like the prince of. He's like one of the princes.
Spoiler alert!
Is it a mystery? Is this
no.
A mystery?
When the queen had a child, that she turned out having identical twins, and what they did is they took one and locked him away, so that there wouldn't be any problem with who is going to be.
Oh, right.
But
and they put a mask on him so no one would be able.
No one ever be able to see him.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the 3 musketeers come to help him.
Really?
Yeah. Alexandre Dumas wrote The Three Musketeers. He wrote Count of Monte Cristo, which is an incredible book, absolutely incredible. I never knew this story. Talk about off the subject, but I read a book called A Prisoner of Birth. Little short book. It was all about London. You would like it because I knew the places there. It was very cool, but it was a guy who was out for revenge, basically. And
I love revenge.
And I heard this interview, and the interviewer, not hard-hitting usually, and she's stumbling all over herself and said, well, do you think you found some inspiration maybe you were looking toward or perhaps influenced by? And he says, you're asking me if I ripped off the Count of Monte Cristo. He said, yes, I did. Yes, I did. So
yeah, of course you did.
It's a great book of love and revenge and...
The Man in the Iron Mask is...
No, Count of Monte Cristo.
Count of Monte Cristo, yeah, that is. I read the unedited version.
I know, it's a tome. It's like 1,000 pages. It's great. But you were talking about...
Yeah. I read years ago a book by Nikos Kazantzakis, of which they made a horrible film, which you shouldn't even bother seeing, called The Last Temptation of Christ.
Oh, I never saw it.
Yeah, it's a terrible movie. They have some sort of blasphemous scenes about Jesus.
Several. Yeah.
But his thesis, and he wasn't a theologian, never claimed to be, but he was a novelist, and he was sort of meditating on the crucifixion, and he thought, well, what would the real temptation in his mind for Jesus would have been to say, you know what, I don't have to do any of this, right? I mean, Jesus didn't have to die on the cross for us. And so at the very last moment, Jesus imagines what it would be like to just come down off of the cross, make everyone forget that he was ever there, and just settle down with Mary Magdalene, get married, have some kids, which, of course, there would be no sin in that, right? I mean, it wouldn't be necessarily disobedient, or would it? I don't know. Well, anyway, I'm not much of a theologian either. But the book opens with this incredible scene in Jerusalem, and there's this young man standing on a cliff looking out over Jerusalem, and he sees people sleeping on the rooftops, and it's very hot, and that's why they're sleeping on the rooftops, right? So they can get the breeze. And they're twisting around, and no one can sleep. And finally, one person on one rooftop stands up and goes, Adonai, how long? And then someone on another rooftop hears it and stands up and goes, yes, Adonai, how long? And no one stands up and says, how long must we wait for you? And pretty soon the whole city is awake and screaming and saying, no, how long? We've been waiting too long, right? And it's just this powerful, powerful passage. And all the more powerful because you learn a couple paragraphs later that the teenager who's looking at this is Jesus. Yeah. And here they are. They're waiting for him to come.
Right.
And he's there. Yeah. And they missed it.
Oh, wow.
Like, in a way, they miss it. And this is when he begins to start saying, I think it's time.
Yeah. And Adonai means Lord.
Yeah. And anyway, I every Advent I print out that opening bit and I put it on my nightstand because Advent is about waiting for the coming of Christ, right?
Right.
But he's already here in one sense. And yet we're encouraged to cry like that, to say, how long must we wait, And so I read this to my students years ago, and one of them said to me, I bet that's how Jesus feels now. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, here he is. He's actually on campus with us. Physically in the tabernacle,
right?
And we're all just walking to class like he's not even there, and I thought, God, that's really, out of the mouths of babes, And for Lent, this was Wilmson Craig was his name, and I asked him if I could use his name because I thought this is such a great idea. His Lenten practice was to say hey to Jesus once a day. And by that, and I know that because I was walking to class with him. He said, hey, hold on. He opened the door to the chapel. He goes, hey. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, saying, it's my Lenten practice. I say, hey to Jesus. What's that? He just poked his head in and said, hey, buddy.
Yeah. No,
really
but and
cool.
that makes so
sweet,
much
very
sense.
teenagerly.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that lately. My office is across the street, next door, less than a block away from church, my office.
Wow.
I don't stop by every day and say hi. Why don't I do that?
I know. I mean, I live with the Blessed Sacrament, literally, and you'd think I'd be always in there, but you take things for granted. That's. I have a friend who is a convert from Islam, and
wow.
he said that that's the great temptation for Christians. He said he thought was to take it for granted because, in one sense, so little is asked of us. I mean, the bare minimum for a Catholic is to go to Mass once a week, for 45 minutes. Right. You can do it in less if you have to, Yeah. And he says he says Islam was very helpful for him, at least in the beginning, because he said I had to do so many prayers a day, I had to make so many pilgrimages, and I always had to keep change in my pocket because you're not allowed to not give to a beggar. And he's like he's like, but it didn't have Jesus, right? And Jesus, he says, so Islam was really good at bringing up the minimum, is what he claimed. I don't even know if this is true, but he said, but it didn't have Jesus, so it didn't have the potential. Whereas he said the number of lukewarm Catholics, he says,
reminds me of a story of a convert, which was I've always remembered. But I got to tell you, this is St. Joseph Radio.
Oh, yeah.
Coming to you live from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm your host, Peter Karutz, and this is Father Augustine Wetta.
Hello,
so you had a convert from Islam. This was a convert from just, I don't know, some Joe's church, whatever it was.
Okay, Joe's church.
But he says...
I belong to Joe.
And he said that his father was this meticulous carpenter. And he used to tell
Was this Jesus?
No.
Okay.
And, carpenter. I never put that together. Craftsman, let's say. And he always says, remember, our treasure is in our house. Our treasure is in our home. It was something that he always said. And he was this brilliant craftsman. And
family,
everything in the house was perfect. Why? Because he actually made it. He had such skill and artistry. And when his mom died, after the father died, many years after that, the family is there for the last time because they're selling the house, right?
Oh, my gosh.
And the whole family, all the kids are there, and they're saying goodbye to the house. And they take a walk through the house, go through every room, and they see even the tables and the counters and everything.
And television? Did he make the television himself?
I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah. And anyway, so they walk out of the house, and this guy's a convert. He said he stopped. He said, Father always said, our treasure is in our house, right? So he says, I got to go back in. So he goes back in, and he goes to his parents' bedroom, and he looks up at the ceiling, and there is a patch in the ceiling that looks like something I would do. You know, when you have to mud something and you smooth it, it looked awful. Yeah. He said, my father would never have done that.
This can't be a true story. This has got to be a novel.
And so he opens up the roof. He cuts into it.
I'm not.
And there is a box in there with these family treasures, if you will. It was keepsakes and things.
It wasn't like literally like gold doubloons or something.
Yeah, but he had apparently he had gone in there so often that it became rough. But what he says...
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah, but what he says is what we Catholics don't understand is the treasure that we live with every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And we could, but we just choose to walk around. Yeah. Yeah. When COVID ended, I remember a friend of mine, I won't say who, was like, he was at home with his kids, and Sunday came around, and I guess COVID had only ended like a week or two ago, or they had only opened up the churches recently. And his daughter was like, "Are we going to Mass?" And he's like, "Well, I think we'll just watch it on TV." And she was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, his 9-year-old daughter was like, "We get to go back to church and see Jesus in person. You want to watch him on television?"
Yeah.
But I think I don't know. Like I said earlier, I feel pretty bad about the whole COVID thing and the way I handled it, at least.
Well, think about this, Father. And I'll make it a question, and if you give me the wrong answer, I'll tell you the right one. How about that?
Yeah, okay.
What is the one thing that many people are most fearful of?
Loneliness.
Okay, loneliness.
I'm right?
No. The unknown. Some of the greatest fears that people have is the unknown, and loneliness is sort of like that too,
yeah,
right?
loneliness is a form of
It's a form of the unknown.
Who you?
And during COVID, people were terrified, mostly of the unknown, and I think
but we shouldn't be. We should be. Jesus,
right?
Amor vincit omnia.
Tell me again.
Jesus is one. Love conquers all.
Yeah.
Jesus already won the battle.
Yeah.
We don't have to be afraid of anything, especially not death.
Right. But if you notice, and now I don't want to digress, but people without faith seem to be.
Oh, now you say you don't want to digress?
No, well, you're here. I want to digress.
We got 5 minutes left in the show.
People who were, it seemed to me, people who were most fearful of the COVID were those people without faith.
I hope.
I don't know what I would have loved to have the church open. I would have loved to be able to go. I would have gone. And what I think, and I have my old people that I visit. That's the thing that really bugged me, that I couldn't see my old people.
Well, my sister worked in a home, and she said this is like, ironically, these are the people we were trying to protect. Yeah. But she said if there's one group of people that would rather die,
absolutely,
and they'd rather die than not see their grandchildren,
right?
And yet we were sealing them off, and
it's a learning moment, it's a teaching moment, isn't it?
At what expense, though? Gosh, our kids, our elderly. We have a priest who's kind of a young. Well, we the joke in the monastery is that we have the young fogies and the old, and the old hipsters. But he gave a fire and brimstone sermon, and he said, it used to be we'd say, save the women and children first. He's like, now it's to heck with the women and children. Let's save the old, fat, rich, and ugly, and old, fat, rich, and lazy, which I don't think was quite fair. But his point was, I think, at least partly valid. Yeah.
I was
downer.
I remember what was John Paul's first words on the balcony when he was elected to the pontificate.
Stop standing on my foot.
Yeah. Be not afraid.
Oh.
And I've since come to understand that it's the most frequent phrase in Scripture.
Is it? Oh, yeah, because every time an angel shows up, he says, don't be afraid.
365 times in there.
No, 365. So one for every day of the week?
One for every day of the week. So, and isn't it true, right? Don't let your heart be troubled. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
Right. Over and over and over.
And yet, we do, and I love to read psychology books, and they say the fear of losing something is stronger than the hope of getting something.
Of course it is.
That's why they sell the stupid insurance online for you buy a $20 pair of headphones and they say, would you like to insure this for $3? Because the thought of losing your headphones is more horrifying than the prospect of getting getting new ones, right?
Father, we have a few minutes left.
Oh my gosh!
Do we want to say any advice on Advent? Do we have any advice on the Eucharist?
I think silence is always a part of this. Silence has got to be a major part of your Advent, because there's no other way to wait for someone or something than to be quiet. I think, and you could run around in circles, I suppose, or spend your whole Advent cleaning your room. But I think to waste some time with Jesus, to really sort of to wait to hear His word, right? Because this is the Word becoming flesh. He's about to be made known to us. But if we're busy talking, we're gonna miss Him.
We're busy talking. We're going to miss Him. Where Adonai? Where are you?
Adonai, how long?
Yeah.
I can hear the music coming.
And as this season continues, we're going to have a lot of family over too. I've been thinking about the spiritual works of mercy. Bear bear wrongs patiently. Isn't that a spiritual work?
You can only do that too. Yeah.
So be quiet, listen, and don't
keep your head down.
Keep your head down. Well, this hour has flown by, and we'll do it again on the Eucharist and Advent. But
maybe next time.
Tell a friend. Come back next week at this time. Have a wonderful Advent and
same bat time, same bat channel,
and a great Christmas.
You've been listening to St. Joseph Radio Presents from the Rome of the West, St. Louis, Missouri. If you would like to join us in our evangelization efforts, you can order a copy of today's broadcast or any of our past programs by visiting us on our website, stjosephradio.net. That's SAINT, josephradio.net. Or call us 636-447-6000. It's all at your fingertips to help us evangelize the world, bringing the good news of Christ to everyone you meet and change one soul at a time. Thank you for your prayers and support. Until next time, may God bless you and your family. This has been a presentation of St. Joseph Radio Presents.